Hey guys, it's Jessica with Southern Sparrow, and let's do y'all's favorite kind of video, which is how to choose your Mahjong hand. So if you've been following our videos for a while, you know that this is my absolute favorite way to practice with the National Mahjong League card. It's also the very best way to get really fast at choosing your hand, and it's a great way to learn a new card. So we have a new card coming out in April. This will be your best way to learn that card quickly. So all you're going to need are your National Mahjong League card and your tiles. I do have it set up on a table. I was filming something else for y'all, but you don't need to set up your full table. I will often just grab my bag of tiles and take it with me to my kids' sports practices and just sit there and work with my card there. But here's what we've done. I've dealt myself 13 tiles, and this time I counted them. There's actually 13. I know last time we had an extra tile in there. I dealt myself 13 tiles, and I went ahead and got organized. And then I just pulled out of the center of the table a little parking lot for my Charleston passes. And here's how you practice this yourself. I've gotten organized, so I have a 1 dot, a pair of 4 dots, a 6 dot, a 2 crack, a 3 crack, a 5 crack, a pair of 9 cracks, 3 bam, 6 bam, 7 bam, and a 9 bam. So the first thing you want to do when you're looking at the tiles you've been dealt is to pick your section. And usually it'll be pretty obvious that there's maybe one section that works for what you've been dealt. Maybe you have a couple of sections that could work that you're playing between, but I like to really try to choose one, at most choose 2 sections that work for what you've been dealt. And that's what we're going to collect for during the Charleston. I think a lot of times people will get really hammed up on trying to choose one single line from the deal, and it's almost impossible. Start with a section and go from there. It will make it so much easier. So for me, there's, a handful of even numbers. I've got a pair of 4s and a 6 here. I've got a 2 here and a 6 here, but not enough even numbers to be compelling enough for me to stay over here. I have, 9s across 2 suits, but that doesn't make me feel super strong about these any like numbers. If I had it in all 3 suits, I might feel a little bit differently. I'm not seeing, enough jokers on the deal to aim for quints. Consecutive run doesn't look that interesting based on what I have. Yes, I have some odd numbers. I've got a 1, I've got 3, 5, 9, I've got 3, 7, 9. Could make a case for these odd numbered hands, the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 section, but really what's jumping out to me are 3, 6, 9s. So I have a 6 in the dot, I have a 3 and a pair of 9s in the crack, I have a 3, 6, 9 in the bam. I think that's gonna be my section. So the way that I like to manage things on my rack is I will pull out the things that I feel the most strongly about over to this side of the rack, and I'll pull the things that I think don't work for me over to this side of the rack. And then I'll kind of put them in order of, okay, I know I don't really need evens. Maybe a backup section is that odd section. I don't think I want to pass a pair though, so I'm gonna break that up and throw this over here. And so my first pass is going to be these 3 tiles. I'm just gonna throw them out in front of me, and I'm gonna grab my first pass here. And you can do this with your bag at home. Just grab into there. You can choose to either throw back your tiles into the bag, which feels a bit more authentic because you will sometimes see tiles come back around during the Charleston, or you can just throw them off to the side. Really, the goal of this practice is to familiarize yourself with the patterns that you're seeing in the tiles and to feel confident about the process of deal your tiles, get organized, choose a section, collect for that section, choose a hand. So that's your process you're gonna follow. And let's look at this first pass. So we've picked up our first right, and we have a 5 crack, a 9 bam, and a south wind. Well, we don't have any other winds, so let's not hang on to that. But I do love that we now have a pair of these 9 bams. We're gonna be happy to get rid of these, and we're gonna slide this over here. I'm gonna get rid of these 3. We're gonna pick up our over, and let's see what we have here. Okay, so we have a 9 dot. That's gonna come down here. We have a soap. I don't know, I think in that 3, 6, 9 section, there's a couple of hands that call for dragons. So you remember they're the D on your card. We'll maybe hang on to that for now, and let's pass these 3. So this will be our first left. We're gonna pick up this pass here. Let's see what we got. We got a 3 dot. we got a joker. So everyone knows the National Mahjong League rules say that you can never pass a joker during the Charleston. I don't really know a lot of people who would, but even still, it is against the rules. So we're gonna throw that and we're just gonna draw a different tile from out here. So we ended up with a 7 dot. So if you're practicing at home and you end up with a joker, I like to throw them back and get something different. Same thing with a flower. That's not a rule not to pass a flower. It's just a good rule of thumb. So if you're getting a flower during the Charleston when you're practicing at home, I tend to throw those back and try again because in real gameplay, most people won't pass that to you. So this has been a nice pass for us if we're collecting for 3 6s and 9s. We have a 3 dot, love that. And we have a 9 crack, love that. So now we have 3 6 9 in the dots. We have a 3 and a pung of 9s in cracks. And we have 3 6 and a pair of 9s in bams. And then we have a soap. This is the end of our first Charleston. If this were a real game, I would probably stop. And here's why. Once I have 6 or more tiles towards a single line, or I have more than 10 tiles towards a section, I will stop the Charleston because I don't want to get into a place where I'm passing tiles that I might need for what I want. So I would likely stop this here, but this is also a great opportunity for us to just look at the actual section. This is where you will say, okay, I've collected for my section. I have those tiles. Now let's narrow it down to an actual hand. So we're then going to look in here and we're going to say, okay, I kind of like this little, 3 6 9 3s and 3s we could be looking at, because when you read the parentheses, so this is the second from the bottom, you have a pair of 3s, a pair of 6s, and a pair of 9s in one suit, and then you have a Kong of 3s and a Kong of 3s in the 2 other suits. But your parentheses say that it can be any 3 suits, like Kongs can be the 3s, the 6s, or the 9s. Well, we have this great pung of 9s in the cracks here. We have a pair in the bams. We could then be looking for the pair of 3s in the dots, the pair of 6s in the dots, and the pair of 9s in the dots. And then we would make our Kongs out of the 9s in cracks and bams. I really like that hand. That would allow us to get rid of some of these tiles and see what we collect towards that hand if we wanted to do a second Charleston, or you could stop. So for us, I tend to, when I'm practicing this at home, just for your own knowledge, once I have 6 tiles towards a hand, I'll say, that's my hand, that's for sure what I'm gonna do, and I would throw these tiles back and start again, just because for me, my goal is getting towards that selected hand. If your goal is to get full game practices in, you can certainly play this as a full game of solo Mahjong, which would just mean that you would get to the end of the Charleston and then you would take turns with yourself, draw a tile out of your bag, choose whether you're going to keep it or get rid of it, and then end your turn with a discard. So kind of like playing solitaire with cards, you're playing it with Mahjong tiles. But my purpose in this is choosing a hand. So I would probably stop and throw these back. But I have chosen this hand, and we can continue to Charleston by passing these 3. Grab the next 3. Let's see what we have. We have an 8 crack, we have a 6 dot, and we have a 2 crack. Well, we know we need this 6 dot. That's part of our pair over here. We would then pass this here, pick up our second over. Nothing in there is something that we want. We have an east wind, a 4 bam, and an 8 crack. We would throw it. Here's our final pass of the Charleston. Let's see what we got. We got a green dragon, we have a 3 bam, and we have a 2 bam. Well, we've chosen a hand that doesn't need any of those things. So the end of the Charleston would be this. We'd be looking at our 3 dot, our pair of 6 dots, our 9 dot, and we have a pung here and a pair. So we only have a few more tiles that we need. We're about 5 tiles away from winning at the end of the Charleston. Hope that helps. Happy Mahjong, y'all.